Hi, welcome back to Papua New Guinea Facts. In this video, we will talk about the history of the gold rush in Wau and Bulolo. But hey, where on earth are those two towns at? Well, Wau and Bulolo are two mining towns in the Morobe province of Papua New Guinea. These towns are well known for their gold rush in the 1920s. Before we dive into history, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss out on our upcoming videos. Now, back to the video. So the history goes like this. In 1910, a Canadian-Australian named Arthur Darling identified gold in what became the Morobe goldfield. 4 years later, in 1914, World War I broke out in Europe. Therefore, all mining operations in German New Guinea ceased during World War I and the period of military administration from 1914 to 1921. I made a video about it, so check out this video later if you want to know more about Papua New Guinea's history. From 1922 to 1942, most of the mining activities during this period were focused on the mandated territory of New Guinea, former German New Guinea, at Wau and Bulolo. The New Guinea administration, based in Rabaul, derived significant revenues from gold mining at Wau and Bulolo Valley. The end of military administration in 1921 and a new mining act for New Guinea in 1923 led to a rush of exploration activity in the mandated territory, which had previously been closed to Australian prospectors by the Germans. Shark Eye Park relocated Arthur Darling's alluvial gold find in Karanga Creek near Wau in 1922 and worked it secretly until 1923, when the new Mining Act came into force. News of the discovery initiated the first small rush. However, it was not until 1926 when rich alluvial gold was discovered at Edie Creek by William Royal and Dick Glasson that activities commenced in earnest. Within 6 months, there were 500 expatriates and 1,500 laborers on the field, with some miners winning up to 240 ounces per day. Over 100,000 ounces was produced in the first year. Underground and processing operations were also developed at Golden Ridges near Wau by NGG. A 14-kilometer road from Wau to Edie Creek was hand-excavated, and a 10-kilometer power line was installed to service the Edie Creek operations. Cecil Levine, a former government patrol officer, recognized the dredging potential of the Bulolo Flats, which lay downstream of the Wau and Edie Creek deposits, and floated Guinea gold on the euphoria created by the Edie Creek discovery. Guinea Gold optioned its properties to several groups before concluding a deal with Placer Development, which at the time was newly listed on the Vancouver Stock Exchange. Bulolo Gold Dredging Ptui Ltd, BGD, was established as the operating company, and Bulolo became the first major mining project for Placer. 8-section, aliased bucket line dredges, some of which weighed up to 4,000 deadweight tons, were flown from the coastal port of Lae to Bulolo by Junker aircraft. This was a major logistical exercise, and during 1930 to 1931, more air freight was moved to Wau, Bulolo than in the rest of the world combined. At the time, New Guinea was the world's major center of aviation, a mode of transport which was to become important to the exploration and development of the territory as a whole, as there were simply no roads anywhere. The other transportation alternative was walking from Salamua to Wau. Dredging operations commenced in 1932, and in the 10 years to 1942, BGD produced 1.3 million ounces of gold. Peak production was achieved in 1940 when 185,000 ounces was recovered. The Bulolo operations were highly profitable and shareholders were well rewarded. The significant mining activities in the Wau Bulolo district prompted exploration into the unknown regions in the center of the mainland. The Leahy Brothers Patrol in 1933 to the highlands was the most famous. This expedition, which was part sponsored by NGG, discovered gold at Bena Bena, near Kainantu in eastern highlands, and at Kuta in the western highlands. Operations at both Wau and Bulolo ceased in January 1942 when the Bulolo airstrip was bombed by the Japanese Imperial Forces. All expatriate personnel were evacuated, but the 3,000 or so national workers were abandoned and left to fend for themselves. Allied forces adopted a scorched earth policy and destroyed most of the infrastructure to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. This policy seriously impaired the restart of operations after the war. By mid-1942, all mining operations in Papua and New Guinea were closed. After World War II, 1948 to 1965, the rebuilding of mining operations after World War II was difficult because of the lack of supplies and equipment, manpower shortages, and, of course, the scorched earth policy adopted by the Allied forces. Only the major mines at Wau and Bulolo were reconstructed after the war. The fighting ended the many small and medium-scale mining operations that were scattered throughout the country. BDG was the first to get operational after the war. The first dredges began operating again in 1948, with the last rebuilt dredge being recommissioned in 1951. The rebuilding effort was assisted by compensation received from the Australian government for the damages caused by the war. Placer concluded in 1950 that dredging would cease in about 15 years and undertook vigorous exploration throughout the country. The dredging operations at Wau Bulolo finally ceased in 1966. Before the closure of the mining operations, BGD, in partnership with the Australian government, commenced a major plywood and timber operation, which survives to this day as PNG Forest Products. This provided a sustainable outcome for the communities in Bulolo, which were affected by the closure of the mining operations. NGG at Wau was much slower to rebuild its operations and was not fully operational until 1949. The Eddy Creek plant, which was not destroyed during the war, was relocated to Wau. The war provided a road from Lai to Bulolo and Wau, and road transport became the major method of supply. So the use of aircraft for the transport of equipment declined greatly. The great aviation era was over. Underground mining was the mainstay of the operations at Wau until the 1960s, when open-cut mining was commenced. By 1966, the only operating mine in the country was the NGG operations at Wau. The Wau mine closed in 1990 after 63 years of operation, and all plant and machinery were sold. Harmony or Hidden Valley is the only mine operating in Wau and Bulolo today. At Eddy Creek, the mining has shut down. In the Bulolo and Wau valleys, the remains of the dredges remain and are slowly rotting away as time goes by. Currently, almost everyone in the Wau and Bulolo area is involved in alluvial mining to sustain their daily lives. And that brings to the end of our video, so if the info helps, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss out on our next videos.